topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Draw me close to you, never let me go. I lay it all down again to hear you say that I'm your friend.
Good day. The Almighty Creator desires a deep personal relationship with you. My name is James Robertson. I'm a researcher, publisher, and teacher regarding the matters and truths of the Almighty Creator, whose true name is Yah, the eternally self-existing. I've been actively serving him since 1993, over 33 years. If you're not actively serving Yah, then by default you're serving Satan. My objective is to show you how you can make a big difference on earth and qualify for a position of high esteem in heaven for eternity. It's important to understand that as a believer, just being good is not the point. It's relationship with Yah that counts. Without this, you will be in a very unpleasant place in heaven with no way out. My aim is to show you how to get close to Father. If you're a good person without a clear relationship with Yah, then you're in a spiritual no man's land and you will not enter heaven when you die. The Creator has said regarding unbelievers, why would I want someone to spend eternity with me when they do not believe I exist? Yah is calling everybody on the planet to be involved and serve him and help him to have victory over Satan. Fundamentally, we each need to learn to see things on earth from Yah's perspective. Today I'm going to carry on with the Acts of the Emissaries, Incorrectly Apostles, Part 3. The overview. The book of Acts in the Bible reports various activities in the lives of the emissaries, incorrectly apostles, meaning sent ones, those sent by Yah and Yahooshua to bring the good news, incorrectly gospel, to others, primarily Shaul, incorrectly Paul, is the subject of Acts. Emissaries exist today just the same, but many are not recognized as such. The book of Acts is generally attributed to Luke, the writer of the good news according to Luke, and this is part 3. Please refer to the introduction in the book of Mighty Yahoo for more information, as most of the changes and commentary in that book apply to the book of Acts as well. So we're carrying on with the Acts of the Emissaries, part 3, chapter 9. And Shaul, incorrectly Paul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the followers of Adonai, went to the high priest and desired of him letters to Damascus, typically called Damascus, to the synagogues, congregations, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound to Jerusalem. As he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. And he fell to the earth and heard a voice saying to him, Shaul, Shaul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Adonai? And Adonai said, I am Yahooshua, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the prods. He, trembling and astonished, said, Adonai, what wilt thou have me to do? And Adonai said to him, Arise and go to the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. So it's pretty dramatic stuff. Folks, here's this chap really beating up the believers, and he's on his way to do it in another city, and suddenly Yeshua appears to him. Now the thing to understand about Yeshua is he is the most powerful, because he lived without sin and he was the firstborn from the dead and victorious. He was granted a magnificent supernatural body in heaven. And he can manifest to a person just as looking like another person, or he can manifest as he does here in his full, glorious, supernatural body, which is kind of mind-blowing. I know of one person who saw him in that manifestation, and they decided that because they'd seen him like that, he was God. No, he's a man. And I just want to point out to you that the thrones on the left and right of Yeshua are still vacant in heaven. You can sit on one of those thrones, and you can have the powers and the glory almost as great as Yeshua if you choose to make an effort in this life. Verse 8, and Shaul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man, but they led him by the hand and brought him to Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat nor drink. So he went on a 3-day fast, and fasting is really important to starting one's ministry. So a 3-day fast is really the absolute minimum that you should fast. There was a certain follower at Damascus named Hananiah, which means Yah protects. And to him said Adonai in a vision, Hananiah. And he said, behold, I am here, Adonai. And Adonai said to him, arise and go into the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Yehudah for one called Shaul of Tarsus, for behold, he prays. And he seen in a vision a man named Hananiah coming in and putting his hand on him that he may receive his sight. Then Hananiah answered, Adonai, I have heard by many of this man, how much evil he's done to the saints at Jerusalem. And here he has authority from the chief priests to bind all that call on thy name. And I said to him, go thy way, for he is a chosen vessel to me, to bear my name before the Hagoyim and the kings, and the children of Israel. For I will show him how great things he must suffer for my name's sake. So important to realize that Shaul's blindness was symbolic of his spiritual state. He was spiritually blind, and Yahushua made him blind physically to draw his attention to his spiritual blindness. As I said a minute ago, a 3-day fast is pretty much a minimum requirement for anything, really. 1 day fast or fasting from sunrise to sunset doesn't cut it as far as I'm concerned. I regard the minimum fast that anyone should undertake who's serious about serving Yah as 7 3-day fasts at weekly intervals. And what I used to do with that was I'd eat a meal early on Thursday evening, and I would then fast until Sunday evening and eat a meal late on Sunday evening. And I had major experiences doing that. And then you do that for 7 or 8 or 9 weeks. Verse 17, and Hananiah went his way and entered into the house, and putting his hands on him, said, Brother Shaul, Adonai, even Yahooshua, that appeared to thee in the way as thou camest, has sent me that thou mightst receive thy sight and be filled with the set-apart spirit. And immediately there fell from his eyes as it had been scales, and he received sight forthwith, and arose and was immersed. So notice he gets immersed, cleansing of defilement of his sin. And when he'd received food, he was strengthened. Then was Shaul certain days with the followers that were in Damascus, and straightway he preached the anointed one of Yah in the synagogues or congregations, that he is the Son of Yah. But all that heard him were amazed, and said, is not this he that destroyed them which called on this name in Jerusalem, and came hither for that intent, that he might bring them bound to the chief priests? But Shaul increased the more in strength, and confounded the Yehudah which dwelt at Damascus, proving that this is the anointed one of Yah. And after that many days were fulfilled, and the Yehudi took counsel to kill him. Really difficult to understand. But their laying await was known of Shaul, and they watched the gates day and night to kill him. And then the followers took him by night and let him down by the wall in a basket. I know I keep saying this, but in my experience, if Yeshua were to come today, he'd get kicked out of the church, at the very least. Verse 26. And when Shaul was come to Jerusalem, he essayed to join himself to the followers, but they were all afraid of him and believed not that he was a follower. Now, there's another book, I can't remember which one it is, Timothy or Titus it might be, where Shaul Paul appears to indicate that after he had the encounter in Damascus, he went into the wilderness for a period of, I think, 3 years before he came to Jerusalem. So again, there are discrepancies between the different books. Verse 27, but Barnabas took him and brought him to the emissaries and declared to them how he had seen Adonai in the way and that he had spoken to him and how he had preached boldly at Damascus in the name of Yahooshua. Now, there's a point to note here, folks. Yah spoke to me audibly, no physical manifestation, on the 12th of March, 1993. For the next 33 plus years, I have served him. Sometimes up, sometimes down, but I've stayed on purpose. Because when you have had an experience like that, something changes. Switch goes on in the head and says, yes, the Creator is real. So I can understand how, having this dramatic experience, Shaul is going to say, you know what, this is really true, and I'm just going to go for it. Verse 28, and he was with them, coming in and going out of Jerusalem. And he spake boldly in the name of Adonai Yahooshua, and disputed against the Hellenists, but they went out about to slay him. Which when the brethren knew, they brought him down to Caesarea, and sent him forth to Tarsus. Then had the assemblies rest throughout all Yehuda and Galilee and Shomron, and were edified, and walking in the fear of Yah, the eternally self-existing, and in the encouragement of the set-apart Spirit, were multiplied. And it came to pass, as Kepha passed throughout all quarters, he came down also to the saints which dwelt at Lod. Now, saints, another of these meaningless religious words. A saint is one anointed with the Spirit of Yah. So anointed ones, if you like, which dwelt at Lod, which in the King James and most English translations is translated as Lydda. I get from Lod to Lydda again. Verse 33, and then he found a certain man named Aeneas, which had kept his bed 8 years, and was sick of the paralytics. And Kepha said to him, Aeneas, Yeshua the anointed of Yah maketh thee whole, arise and make thy bed. And he arose immediately. And all that dwelt at Lod and Sharon saw him and turned to Yah, the eternally self-existing. Folks, there's a point here. You do not know what conversation Aeneas had with Yah in his heart, silently, so nobody heard him, that led to this happening. You don't know what conversation Yahushua had with Yah concerning this matter, also in his heart. All we're hearing about here or reading about here is things that human beings saw, not the things that happened supernaturally. And that's important, because if you're an anointed one, as I've said before, people won't really understand you. People will see you doing things and not understand why you do them. And the other thing you notice is here people believe. So you've got this dichotomy between some people say, oh, wow, this is Yah, I believe. And other people say, this guy's a heretic, we need to kill him. Verse 36. Now there was at Joppa a certain follower named Tabitha, which by interpretation is called Dorcas. This woman was full of good works and kind deeds, which she did. And it came to pass in those days that she was sick and died. And when they had washed, they laid her in an upper chamber. And forasmuch as Lod was nigh to Joppa, and the followers had heard that Kepha was there, they sent to him 2 men, desiring him that he would not delay to come to them. Then Kepha arose and went with them. When he was come, they brought him into the upper chamber. All the widows stood by him, weeping and showing the coats and garments which Dorcas made, while she was with them. But Kepha put them all forth, and kneeled down and prayed, and turned him to the body, said, Tabitha, arise. And she opened her eyes, and when she saw Kepha, she sat up. Now, notice here that there was nobody in the room with Kepha. So one doesn't know whether that's an amplification made by the person who was writing this, or whether Kepha said, well, I went in there, I kneeled down, I prayed, I turned to the body, and Kepha said, arise, and she opened her eyes. I'm not sure. My point, it's not necessary to take the Bible absolutely literally to the last character. Verse 41, and he gave her his hand and lifted her up, and when he had called the set apart ones, in other words, the saints and widows, presented her alive, and it was known throughout all Joppa, and many believed in Yah, the eternally self-existing. And it came to pass that he tarried many days in Joppa with one Shimon, a tanner. I want to make the point, folks. It's available to every spirit-filled believer who's close enough to Yah and anointed enough to raise the dead. You can raise the dead, do the fasting, do the worshiping, all the things that I talk about in the ebook, 7 Components of Drawing Close to Yah, up on the top left-hand corner of the website. Hover over home, and there's a drop-down. It's possible. Don't read Acts as these amazing people. They were amazing people, but not in the sense that there was something special about them. You today can do that if you want to. You're going to have to take a couple of years of fasting and praying and worshiping and what have you. And my ebook tells you how to do it. Chapter 10. And you've got to live without sin, folks. Chapter 10, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a captain of the regiment called the Italian regiment, a devout man and one that feared Yah with all his house, which gave much kind deeds to the people and prayed to Yah always. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, a messenger of Yah coming into him and saying to him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Adonai? He said to him, Thy prayers and thine kind deeds are come up for a memorial before Yah. Now send men to Joppa in the King James, and call for one Shimon, whose name is Kepha. He lodgeth with one Shimon, a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell thee what thee oughtest to do. And when the messenger which spoke to Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants, and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. Verse 8, and when he had declared all these things to them, he sent them to Jaffa. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh to the city, Kepha went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they were made ready, he fell into a trance, and he saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descended to him, like a great sheet bound at the 4 corners, and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Kepha, kill and eat. But Kepha said, Not so, Adonai, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake to him again the 2nd time, What Yah has cleansed, that call thou not common. And this was done thrice. And the vessel was taken up into heaven. Now while Kepha doubted himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men that were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Shimon's house, and stood before the gate, and called, and asked whether Shimon, which was surnamed Kepha, was lodged there. So there's 2 pieces here, because what we're going to see is that the vision is actually telling Kepha to speak to the Romans. But the other piece is that the laws with regard to what you eat have been relaxed, and we'll see that later. And I want to make the point, folks, I don't fully understand why it happened. There are good reasons not to eat certain animals, etc. Because if they're not properly prepared, it's bad for your health. Pork is not particularly good for you, for example. It's my understanding that way back in the time of Moses, those dietary laws were given because of the lack of cleanliness of those animals, etc. And then with the offering of Yeshua and spreading out more widely, Yah said, you know what, those dietary laws are not working too well. Let's just let them go. Because remember that the main thing is that Father's looking forward with a relationship with you, and he's really not that obsessive about whether you eat pork or shellfish or whatever. Verse 19. While Kepha thought on the vision, the Spirit said to him, behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise, therefore, and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. So there we see the Spirit of Yah leading Shimon to do things that he would otherwise not have considered acceptable. And you can imagine that doing that, a whole lot of people would be upset with him. And Kepha went down to the men that were sent to him from Cornelius and said, behold, I am he whom you seek. What is the cause wherefore you are come? And they said, Cornelius the captain, a just man, and one that feareth Yah, and of good report among all the nation of the Yehudi, was instructed from Yah by a set-apart messenger to send for thee into his house to hear words of thee. Then called he them in and lodged them, and on the morrow Kepha went away with them, and certain brethren from Jaffa accompanied him. And the morrow after they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen and near friends. And Kepha was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and bowed down to him. But Kepha took him up, saying, stand up, I myself also am a man. 27. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said to them, you know how that it is unlawful for a man that is a Yehudi to keep company or to come to one of another nation. But Yah has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Therefore I came to you without hesitation as soon as I was sent for. I asked therefore for what intent you sent for me. Cornelius said, 4 days ago I was fasting until this hour, and at the 9th hour I prayed in my house. And behold, a man stood before me in bright clothing, and said, Cornelius, thy prayer is heard, and kind deeds are heard, or had in remembrance in the sight of Yah. Send therefore to Jaffa, and call hither Shimon, whose surname is Kepha. He is lodged in the house of one Shimon a tanner by the seaside. When he cometh, shall speak to thee. Immediately therefore I sent to thee, and thou hast done well that thou art come. Now therefore are we all here present before Yah, to hear all things that are commanded thee of Yah. Try and understand how pleasing it is for Father to say, Shimon, go with these men. And despite all his prejudice, all his upbringing and everything else, he says, I'm going. And Yah says to Cornelius, send for Shimon. And he says, I send. And Shimon comes and he says, talk to us. If you're in the habit of arguing and debating and negotiating with Yah, learn a lesson from this example. It means a lot to Yah when he says to you, do this or don't do that, and you say, yep, I've got it. I'm on it. And you act. 34. Then Kepha opened his mouth and said, of a truth, I perceive that Yah is no respecter of persons. But in every nation he that feareth him and works righteousness is accepted with him. The word which Yah sent to the children of Israel, Yisrael, preached peace by Yahooshua, the anointed one of Yah. He is Adonai of all. That word I say you know, which was published throughout all Yehudah and began from Galil after the immersion which Yehochanan preached. Our Yah anointed Yahooshua of Nazareth with the set-apart spirit and with power, who went about doing good and healing all that were oppressed of the devil, for Yah was with him. And we are witnesses of all things which he did both in the land of the Yehudi and in Jerusalem, whom they slew and hanged on a tree. Notice a tree, not a cross. Him Yah raised up the 3rd day and showed him openly, not to all the people, but to witnesses chosen before of Yah, even to us who did eat and drink with him after he rose from the dead. And he commanded us to preach to the people and to testify that it is he who was ordained of Yah to be the judge of the quick and the dead. To him give all the spokesmen of Yah witness, and through this name, whosoever believeth in him shall receive a remission of sins. Folks, it's really important stuff here. Yah works through all nations and tribes, etc. He's calling all human beings to become his friends. Every nation. Yes, there was a season where everything was working its way out, and people fell away, and it was just the Hebrews, it was just the children of Israel, who at some sort of level were faithful, and then they kind of lost the plot, and then Yeshua comes, and Yah says, you know what? I've had enough of that. I'm looking for people who will make individual decisions. This is not a group thing. It's an individual thing. 44. While Kepha yet spake these words, the set-apart spirit fell on all them which heard the word. And they of the circumcision which believed were astonished, as many as came with Kepha, because that on the Hagoyim, incorrectly Gentiles, also was poured out the gift of the set-apart spirit. For they heard them speak with tongues and magnify Yah. Then answered Kepha, can any man forbid water that these should not be immersed, which have received the set-apart spirit as well as we? And he commanded them to be immersed in the name of Yah, the eternally self-existing, and prayed him to tarry certain days. Folks, what you'll notice, I'm reading from my version of the King James, where I've corrected most of the translation errors. If you go and hold up what I've just read against the King James, you're going to get immersed in the name of the Lord. And you're going to say that's Jesus. No, it's the name of Yah, the eternally self-existing. You've got to draw the distinction, because the King James and most other English Bibles say the Lord for Jesus and the Lord for Yah. Chapter 11. And the emissaries and brethren that were in Yehuda heard that the Hagoyim had also received the word of Yah. And when Kepha was come up to Jerusalem, they that were of the circumcision contended with him, saying, Thou wentest into men uncircumcised and did eat with them. But Kepha rehearsed the matter from the beginning and set it forth by order to them, saying, I was in the city of Joppa praying, and in a trance I saw a vision. A certain vessel descended, as it had been a great sheet let down from heaven by four corners, and it came even to me. Upon the which, when I had fastened mine eyes, I considered and saw four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And I heard a voice saying to me, Arise, Kepha, slay and eat. But I said, Not so, Adonai, for nothing common or unclean has at any time entered into my mouth. But the voice answered me again from heaven, What Yah has cleansed, that call not thou common. And this was done 3 times, and all were drawn up again into heaven. So he's recounting his experience there. And again, understand that when you have a vision like that, it's enduring, it stays with you. And if you're really sincere about serving Yah, then start praying and say, Father, I want to have experiences like this. But you need to fast, you need to pray, get on your knees and pray, you need to worship, you need to study anointed writings. It doesn't just happen. But it's possible. You can have those experiences. Verse 11. And Kepha is continuing, and behold, immediately there were 3 men already come to the house where I was, sent from Caesarea to me, and the Spirit made me to go with them, nothing doubting. Moreover, these 6 brethren accompanied me, and we entered into the man's house. And he told us how he had seen a messenger in his house, which stood and said to him, Send to Jaffa and call for Shimon, whose surname is Kepha. We shall tell these words, whereby thou and all thy house shall be saved. And as I began to speak, the set-apart spirit fell on them, as on us at the beginning. And I remembered the word of Adonai, how that he said, Yahuchanan indeed immersed with water, but you shall be immersed with the set-apart spirit. For as much then as Yah gave them the like gift as he did to us who believed on Adonai Yahooshua, the anointed one of Yah, what was I that I could withstand Yah. When they heard these things, they held their peace, and Kavod glorified Yah, saying, then has Yah also to the Hagoyim granted repentance to life. Big paradigm change, folks. As I say generally, when I wrap up, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are. Yah would like you to become his friend. He's not going to insist. He's not going to force it. It's your choice. You give him the gift and say, Father Yah, James says, I can become your friend. I want to become your friend. Help me to get there. Download the book, 7 Components of Drawing Close to Yah. If you hover your mouse over the word home in the top left-hand corner of the website, just to the right at the end of the word home, the little triangle, you can't see it very clearly. Hover over that, you'll get a drop-down list. I think the second document down is 7 Components of Drawing Close to Yah. 19. Now they which were scattered abroad upon the persecution that arose about Stephanos travelled as far as Phoenicia and Cyprus and Antioch, preaching the word to none but to the Yehudai only. So you hear this message that we've just heard, it's kind of jumping around a bit here. Phoenice in the King James version, or Phoenice as opposed to Phoenicia. Some of them were men of Cyrus and Cyrene, which when they came to Antioch spoke to the Hellenists, preaching Adonai Yahooshua. And the hand of Yah, the eternally self-existing, was with them, and a great number believed and turned to Yah, the eternally self-existing. Then tidings of these things came to the ears of the assembly which was in Jerusalem, and they sent forth Barnabas that he should go so far as Antioch. When he came and had seen the chen, the favour of Yah, was glad and exhorted them all that with purpose of heart they would cleave to Yah, the eternally self-existing. What I hope you're noticing, the Lord is an incorrect translation of Yah, the eternally self-existing, or if you like Yahweh, or if you want to be very specific, YHWH in the Hebrew. In most English Bibles, it's translated as the Lord, and people conflate that with Yahushua, Jesus. The whole thing, ultimately, is about relationship with Yah, the Almighty Creator of the heavens and the earth. Yeshua is at his right hand, waiting for his enemies to be made his footstool, but ultimately his mission is to lead people to Yah. Verse 24. We're talking about Barnabas. For he was a good man and full of the set-apart spirit of Emunah, and such and of Emunah faith, and much people was added to Yah, the eternally self-existing. Then departed Barnabas to Tarsus for to seek Shaul. When he had found him, he brought him to Antioch, and it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves to the assembly and taught much people. And the followers were called anointed ones first in Antioch. And the more common phrasing there is Christians. And in these days came spokesmen of Yah from Jerusalem to Antioch. And there stood up one of them named Agabus, and signified by the Spirit that there should be great scarcity of food throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar. Then the followers, every man according to his ability, determined to send relief to the brethren which dwelt in Yehuda, which also they did, and sent it to the elders by the hands of Barnabas and Shaul. Chapter 12. Now about that time Herodes the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the assembly, and he killed Jacob, the brother of Jehohanan, with the sword. And because he saw it pleased the Yehudi, he proceeded further to take Kepha also. These were the days of unleavened bread. When he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 squads of soldiers to keep him, intending after Passover, to bring him forth to the people. Kepha was therefore kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the assembly to Yah for him. And when Herodes was about to bring him forth the same night, Kepha was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, and the keepers before the door kept the prison. And behold, the messenger of Yah, the eternally self-existing, came upon him, and a light shined in the prison, and he smote Kepha on the side, raised him up, saying, Arise up quickly, and his chains fell off from his hands. And the messenger said to him, Gird thyself and bind on thy sandals. And so he did. And he said to him, Cast thy garment about thee, and follow me. And he went out and followed him, and he knew not that it was true which was done by the messenger, but thought he saw a vision. So there are a couple of things here. Kepha was apparently free of sin, so they couldn't really do anything. They arrested him, but Yah just took him out. And whether it's a case of all the prayer, whether Yah would have taken him out anyway, I'm not sure. I think Yah would have taken him out anyway, to be quite honest. I'm sure he was saying, Father, please get me out of this mess. I don't really like it here. And Yah doesn't need nagging to get him to do things. If it involves dealing with the satanic and demonic realm, well, you need to keep speaking to them because they're a bit hard of hearing and they don't want to hear. But when it's about getting Yah to do something, it's not really necessary to nag him. Verse 10. When they were past the first and the second guard posts, they came to the iron gate that leadeth to the city, which opened to them of its own accord. And they went out and passed on through one street. And forthwith the messenger departed from him. So the gates didn't open of their own accord. A messenger that you couldn't see opened the gate. And when it's so important when you read the Bible that you're looking at a superficial, tangible description of what happened. You've got no insight into what was going on in the spirit realm at the same time. And when Kepha was come to himself, he said, Now I know of a surety that Yah, the eternally self-existing, has sent his messenger and has delivered me out of the hand of Herodes and from all the expectation of the people of the Yehudi. And when he considered the thing, he came to the house of Miriam, the mother of Yehochanan, whose surname was Marcos or Mark, where many were gathered together praying. And as Kepha knocked at the door of the gate, a damsel came to hearken named Rhoda. And when she recognized Kepha's voice, she opened not the gate because of her joy, but ran in and told how Kepha stood before the gate. Now that's a bit silly. Guy's in danger. And she says, just hang on there. I'm going to tell everybody that you're outside the gate. And she doesn't open the gate. But that's just the humanity of the thing, folks. And they said to her, Thou art mad. But she constantly affirmed that it was even so, then said that it is his messenger. So they're praying for Kepha to be released. The prayer's answered, and they say, you're crazy, you're dreaming, it's not really happening. And that's the carnality of human beings, folks. But Kepha continued knocking, and when they'd opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. But he, beckoning to them with his hand to hold their peace, declared to them how Yah, the eternally self-existing, had brought him out of the prison. And he said, Go report these things to Jacob and to the brethren. And he departed and went into another place. Now as soon as it was day, there was no small stir among the soldiers what was become of Kepha. And when Herodes had sought for him and found him not, he examined the keepers and commanded that they should be put to death. And he went down from Yehuda to Caesarea and there abode. So it's pretty harsh stuff. But again, the carnality says this chap can't have been taken out of there by a miracle. Those soldiers must have collaborated. And you're talking about a society in which life was relatively cheap. But I want to step back from all of this. You should read, should listen to all of this. Say, I can do this. I can speak out. I can be delivered from prison. I can heal the sick, raise the dead, walk on water, feed 5,000, etc. When Yahshua says, I am the way, what that means is I am the example. Follow in my footsteps, follow in my example. Heal the sick, raise the dead, walk on water, feed 5,000, etc. It's there for you. Stop reading the Bible and thinking, oh, these great people. It's there for you today. The only reason it's not happening is because nobody's got it. And I had it and I lost it. And I've explained that, so I'm not going to go in there again. So what is the state of your relationship with the Almighty Creator? I'd like to ask you to critically examine where you are relative to Him today. Do you talk to Him constantly throughout the day and allow Him to lead you in every possible way? Do you worship Him at every opportunity? Have you clearly and unambiguously heard Him call you friend? If not, you're failing in your life purpose and you'll be bitterly disappointed when you die. If you've now come to belief, please pray along the following lines. Father Yah, I come to you in the name of Yahooshua. I now believe that you exist. I confess my sin of unbelief and I repent of my unbelief and I ask you to forgive my sin. And I commit my life to you and I ask you to take me by the hand and lead me into deep personal relationship with you. I ask you to fill me with your spirit and to change me and help me to become the person you want me to become. I ask you to help me to find people who can help me and help me find books, websites, articles, and other resources that will help me. I ask you to show me what I can do to actively serve you and lead others to deep personal relationship with you. Thank you for serving me. There's a period of 8 days from sincerely coming to belief for the first time, during which there's extreme grace to help you. See the article, Critical Actions on First Belief, for actions you should take immediately. Drop me an email on james@endtimeissueministries.org so that I can help you, pray for you, pray with you, counsel you, etc. If you're looking for things to read, there's a fair level of anointing on most of what's on the website. That's www.endtimeissueministries.org. Go there, see what you can find. I love hearing from people. Do not hesitate to email me. Don't think he's too busy or whatever. Just email me. Be really good to hear from you. In closing, thank you for listening. Please send me your questions to james@endtimeissueministries.org. Please email me to join the mailing list at james@endtimeissueministries.org. If you decide to draw close to the Almighty, please let me know and I will connect with you by Zoom, Teams, email, LinkedIn, Facebook, WhatsApp, or telephone so that I can help you with your journey. I hope to connect with you again next week, and I will continue to explore how to become a friend of the Creator. Work with me to make a way for Yahshua to return in victory at the end of the millennium. Make his enemies his footstool. Folks, as I've said, the entire universe, the galaxy, the solar system, the sun, the moon, the stars, planet Earth, the plants, the animals, all exist for one reason and one reason only, is Yah wants friends. He wants you and me to become his friend. And it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're rich or poor, tall or fat, thin or short, thin or fat, tall or short, rich or poor, educated or uneducated. Doesn't matter whether you have blonde hair and blue eyes or black hair and brown eyes or anything in between. Doesn't matter if you're Indian, Asian, African, American, European, whatever. It doesn't matter if you are Jewish or Muslim or Christian or Buddhist or Hindu or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're a Satanist killer. It doesn't matter if you're an Islamist killer. Yah will help you clean up your life, get your life on track, and help you to become his friend. And I will help you to become his friend. Just email me. You've got my email address there. James@endtimeissueministries.org. I want to help you. I want to hear from you. So don't hold back. If you've been walking with me for a while, I guess you're going to drop off now. If this is only your first or second time on the channel, please hang in there. I've got some further information that I want to share with you. So for those who are leaving, thank you so much for joining. Have a great weekend and a great week, and I'll see you next Friday. For those of you who are new, just hold on a sec. So in closing, who am I? James Robertson. I have a doctorate in engineering and I'm a retired military commander. I now work as a management consultant. I have over 33 years' experience of actively seeking to draw close to the Almighty, following a dramatic encounter with him on the 12th of March 1993, when he spoke to me audibly in a locked room and I knew for certain that he was real. Learning about Father, I applied my deep-seated aversion to failure, born out of an accident in early childhood, coupled to my engineering and military training of rigor in preventing failure, to my seeking of knowledge about Father. This journey led to numerous supernatural experiences, prayers answered, and clear communication with the Creator. It forms the basis for what I teach in these programs. See the video Why Seek Relationship for an overview of what I believe. Please visit my website at www.endtimemissionministries.org. The ETI version of the Bible with correction of translation errors is on the ETI Bible version page. Recordings of nearly all of the teachings broadcast so far, go to www.relationshipwithcreatorradio.com. Search on Google for Relationship with Creator Radio. Transcripts are on the transcripts of broadcast page. Books with teachings from 1998 until May 2019 are on the Books for Printing page. I publish regular email articles. Email me on james@endtimemissionministries.org to be added to the list or to seek counsel or prayer or give me feedback. Visit the website and use the article keyword cloud, table of contents, article search, and Google search to locate the information you're looking for. Folks, there's a huge amount of information on the website, about 1,250 web pages, about 2,500 articles in the article database, all sorts of subjects. Probably answers to a lot of your questions. And if you can't find the answer to your question on the website, email me, james@endtimemissionministries.org. Folks, that's about it. I'm out of time. Remember, it doesn't matter who you are, Father would like you to become his friend. Talk to him, do things with him, involve him in your family, your business, your hobbies, your ministry, every possible way. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. And have a great week, and I'll see you next Friday. Cheerio.
Father, I come to you, lifting up my hands. By your grace I stand, just because you love me. I know your favor.
Do you really understand the book of Acts of the Emissaries, the Apostles in the Bible? Please listen to my broadcast on w4cy.com internet radio or talk4tv.com internet TV to learn what it's really saying. My name is Dr. James Robertson, and I've been walking closely with the Almighty Creator since 1993. Visit my website at www.endtimemissionministries.org for a lot of information about the matters of the Almighty. For back issues of broadcast, visit www.relationshipwithcreatorradio.com or email me on james@endtimemissionministries.org to find out more. I would love to hear from you. You have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.